with emotional wisdom. Is anyone out there? I announced on my social medias accounts and pages that I was going to go live. Yes, to discuss a very important topic. And the topic is learn why you feel alone as you face your personal challenges this year, 2020, right now, through the process of witnessing different perceptual realities happening all at once. That's basically going to be the topic of our discussion. And through the process, I am going to do storytelling to give you my personal example of how I felt when I encountered my challenge, my catastrophic challenge this year in July 14th. And within the duration of a week, 2 weeks span. Why is it that we feel alone, more alone, as you're going through pain and navigating through pain this year? There's a reason. Right now, more than ever, globally, we're experiencing multiple realities happening at once, for many, even within our friends, our family. What do you mean, Josie, there's multiple perceptual realities happening at once? Well, just simply with political views, with the COVID-19, with fires happening, how everyone now has their own opinion. And everyone wants to make it known. They want their opinion to be heard and seen and validated. And if their opinion is not heard and seen and validated, then we get aggressive. You see? So the problem here is when that person who's protesting their opinion, who is fighting for their belief system, has a friend, a best friend, or a cousin, or a coworker, whatever it may be, who then it interferes with their legitimate, real reality of how they're seeing politics, or how they're seeing the fires, or how they're witnessing the fires, or how they're experiencing COVID-19, and how they experience COVID-19. So when you have two people experiencing it completely different, in my case, firsthand, I experienced loss. 3 individuals passed away in a matter of 2 weeks span. My whole intermediate family got infected, including myself. While you have other families that nothing has happened to them. Or if they got it, the symptoms were minimal. Or they have no symptoms. So they can't relate to the effects that COVID could really have in a body. They can't really conceptualize that because they haven't lived it. Or you have those people that no one they know has gotten the virus. So how do we expect them to understand someone else that has? Or, for example, again, the fires. We're watching fires happening. People are losing their houses. And those people that their whole life turned upside down are now watching other people who their house did not burn down, or other people in California that they have not been affected and they're living on with their day, not really being affected. That is a different reality that they're experiencing before them. I'm literally in a crisis right now. But yet, other people are not experiencing this crisis. Or even rioting, protesters, I should say, the protesters. You have Black Lives Matter, and then you have All Lives Matter, and you have people that have their opinion. You have a person who is African American, who literally has had painful experiences. And when there's someone outside of them saying, all lives matter, don't be a victim, it is painful for someone that had to live that painful reality. So what are they then learning? What are they receiving? What are they comprehending? They're comprehending that they're all alone in this pain. While the other person, who is not necessarily African American, but yet also has suffered pain in their own way, they're then saying, hey, it's all of us who have to deal with life. Rightfully, they're experiencing their own journey about the situation, so they're going to fight for their truth and their belief. So essentially, when you have so many opposing beliefs floating around, or opinions, the person that's in pain is going to suffer when they see another person with an opposing belief minimize that person's pain. Does that make sense? So again, when you have a person wandering around experiencing 2020 in eyes of pain because 2020 has caused them pain in whatever arena, and all of a sudden there's an opposing opinion who is minimizing their pain, who is discrediting their pain, they're going to feel pain. They're going to feel alone in the situation or in the experience. They're going to feel isolated. It's very important that we really understand this. Why? Because if you're a person in pain, and that's someone that I want to talk to most above all, if you're that person in pain dealing with the reality, and you're noticing and looking around, and there's a lot of opposing opinions to your reality. I see you, I feel you, I hear you, I understand you. You're not alone. You're not alone. I will be making a part 2 because there's always a reason to why you would end up feeling alone, which I will go a little into detail here, but it's deep. It goes deep. So, me giving you again the example of how I've been affected through COVID. I know so many people till this day that don't believe in it. That's totally fine. That's totally fine. You don't have to believe it. I still know people till this day that feel like it's, a lie, or that do not wear masks. They don't work. That's okay too, right? Because I'm sure their reality of life, the way they're viewing life, the way they are filtering life is based on their own personal experiences. I'm mature enough to understand that. So I'm okay with that. However, it gets really difficult to be okay with that when you're in pain. What do you mean, Josie? As I said, losing people from COVID really put a lot into perspective on an even deeper angle. I literally lost 3 people. Everyone in my intermediate family was sick. One of my brothers was in and out of the hospital, yet not out of the woods. And then I still see people minimizing the situation. One aspect of me understood why they would minimize it, because they did not experience it firsthand. and they have a totally different experience. Another part of me felt angry. Felt angry that why did it happen to us? Why just us? Knowing that there's other people that got affected, but why is it that I don't see more cases, if you will, but I want to say I saw many cases, and seeing people just freely go upon their day, congregating, no mask, people still hanging out, me witnessing that, and a part of me feeling like, oh my God, nothing happened to them. Clearly, or else they would be wearing a mask, or they would be taking different measures. It gets to you, it gets to you. It makes you feel like you're alone, especially when you're seeing other realities play before you. People not wearing masks, people hanging out, people even telling me why I'm wearing a mask. Me hearing conversations, why am I believing or falling in that trap when I know what I experienced? When I know that my experience was painful, is painful, and I'm sorting it out. So, when I first learned about different perceptual realities was when my mother passed away in 2010, meaning when I really was able to conceptualize it, when I was able to experience it firsthand, was when I said, whoa, this is crazy. Literally, when my mom passed away in October of 2010, everything stopped. Everything came in a standstill. My whole life stopped. I was in shock. And what's really interesting is that I was walking around looking at everyone, seeing that they're going about their day, then flying home and witnessing family and friends going about their day. When I lost someone that meant the world to me. I lost someone that gave me motivation to live. So for me, it was so hard to coexist in a reality, in life, when that's not how I felt. I don't feel like my life is happening. I feel like it's at a standstill. But then I see other people outside of me, I remember friends and family, still living their life, and it was painful for me. It was like I was getting a message that I'm all alone, that I'm alone in my pain. So the moment that I realized that, wow, we are really all living multiple realities all at once. And not until you suffer major deep pain does it really get real. It starts getting very, very real the moment you suffer deep loss and deep pain. So, it was interesting. As I was preparing, to kind of have an idea of what I was going to talk about, to conceptualize it and put into perspective, and how it even begins, how the pain of witnessing different parallel or different perceptual realities, why they even affect you to the degree that they do, I came to an aha moment. I came to an aha moment with a friend at the time when my mother had passed away, how when I came back from Mexico, because she passed away in Mexico, all she really wanted to converse about was her reality, essentially, and her reality and her work and so forth. And I was confused. Like, I just lost my mom. My whole life is upside down. I don't really want to live. And then you're worried about petty stuff. That's what I was feeling. You're worried about irrelevant stuff that does not really mean, that is not meaningful. So it really, really made me feel some type of way about that friendship, because I was being echoed back through her friendship that I'm not being understood, that I'm not understood, or that I cannot be understood. And here's an interesting fact that I also wanted to put into perspective is what you feed and fuel yourself is so, so deep. So deep. So again, if you're that person in pain, feeling that you're all alone, you have to take it back. You have to take it to the stories you're telling yourself. You have to take it to what you lived when you were little. And what happened? What did you do to yourself when you were little to cope with the reality that you were living? So what do I mean? So to use that example of my mom, when I first became a parent, that, oh wow, people can be living multiple realities all at once, and we really, really get it when we experience a loss and we're in pain and the other person can't seem to sympathize, or we clearly see that they're not sympathizing. It's like, wait, are we in the same reality here right now? Because I just lost my mom and you're worried about work stuff, which is weird, right? So I would hear, you can't understand me, I'm all alone. So to take it back to the stories we're telling ourselves is when I was in Mexico and my mom still had yet not passed, but she was in the hospital. She literally, I remember, I should say, that all of my siblings, I remember telling myself, oh wow, all my siblings have significant others. Either they're married or they're dating, but they have someone to lean on and someone to understand them. And what was really interesting is that I would tell myself, I don't have anyone, like these are moments that I would value and appreciate having someone, a significant other, to be held and to be comforted and just to be present with me in this pain, in this nightmare that I was living. So again, the story that I kept on feeling myself is I'm all alone. I'm all alone. I'm all alone. While my other siblings have a shoulder to cry on, Again, feeling more victim, feeling more pain, feeling or fueling more the isolation in me. So here's where it begins. What is really happening when you are experiencing that deep pain right now, while other people cannot sympathize, while other people are having different perceptual realities than you, opposing realities, opinions, and that really pains you because you are already in pain for whatever you're dealing with. What's happened here is that it's a huge, huge echo of your childhood. What do you mean, Josie? Give me an example. I'll give you my example. When I was little, I had to deal with seeing my mother sick constantly. In fact, she only had 3 months to live when she had me. She was going to pass. She was going to die. So even in her womb was I marinating in her fear of death. So I was born. She only had 3 months to live, and somehow my dad conjured up remedies, natural remedies, and he saved her because the doctor said she only had 3 months to live. Miracle, yes. However, that was the echo of my life. Seeing distress. Seeing my mom sick where she can potentially die. Seeing my dad sick constantly or struggling because he was always working and he suffered anxiety. So the reality that I had when I was little, when I was born, or when I was in my mother's womb, let's actually take it back, was of potentially I'm going to lose the people that I need. We need our parents. We need our parents to nurture us. We need people. We need connection. So if in my mother's womb, after I was born, I'm always witnessing my mom being sick, wearing bandanas, that means that my emotional nervous system is at an all high. I am literally in distress, worried that my whole life is going to cave in the moment something happens to my mom. Because for me, something happening to my parents, and I'm sure you guys could relate, especially when you're little, it's a catastrophic event. I mean, it's something to where you think you're going to die. Literally, as a child, you are thinking you're going to die if your family divorce, or they're talking about divorce, or one is sick. You literally feel like a child literally feels through their nervous system, because it's so at a high alert, that they're going to die. That's how it feels. So imagine my reality is of, oh my God, I will die if my mom leaves me, or if something happens to her, if my dad gets sick, because I would see him always constantly anxious and nervous and just always working, dedicated and long hours and so forth. So I was already at a very sensitive, high alert, emotional state. And on top of that, being an empath and clairsentient, it just took it, my stress level was at an all high. So here's the kicker. Or here's the problem, the danger, is when my parents, actually, let's make it real, let's make it personal, didn't know how to comfort me in my pain, in my catastrophic perception of pain. You know, the perception that my world is going to cave in. The fact that they didn't know how to comfort me, how to help me resolve and understand my emotions, it crippled me. How? Because to survive, so Josie couldn't survive this world, she had to sever and disassociate that part of her that is suffering immense pain. Why did I feel like I had to sever it? Because no one was present in my pain. My pain ends up being a burden to another person, especially when they're not trying to feel pain. In this case, my mother, especially when she's trying to run away from her own pain, because it's a lot to deal with, because that's what we're taught, is to run away, right? Only good emotions are good. And even yet, good emotions can be annoying to some parents that never were happy. But so here I am, in a drowning, in a sense, for lack of better words, in my pain, in my emotions, and no one is comforting me. No one is saving me. No one's telling me what's happening to me. No one's giving me safety or reassurance. All they do is maybe hug me or hold me, but I'm not getting emotional resolution. So when that happens, you have to sever. You cut that part of you to survive. And when you cut it, you compartmentalize. It's almost like you put that part of you that no one could ever understand me in my pain. You put it in your heart and you lock it up because you feel like you need to protect it, and you need to also run from it, like ignore it and forget about it. So what happens is that you are already being not validated. Your pain is not being validated. In fact, most of the time it's being shamed. Oh, grow up, you're a grown little girl. Or you're a young boy. Boys don't cry. What does that do? That literally shames the child for even feeling, for even being human, is what that happens. So we learn to reject our emotions. That's what I learned, run away from it. I then learn I'm not being accepted if I'm feeling like this. I feel shame for feeling like this. Something's wrong with me. So essentially, my reality is not being validated. My painful reality is being minimized. So I now have to live a different reality to cope. Very damaging, because that's not really the case. That's not what's happening to you. So if we now fast forward to today's time, right now more than ever, 2020, we are being forced to face, as I call them, our demons, our resistance. We're forced to face the things that we resist within ourselves. And in this case, if anything, an epidemic that has been occurring has been of loneliness, of there's no true connection. Few of us understand connection. Connection really means just being connected with someone. Even in their pain, you're connected. They're feeling supported or connected. So right now, because people are not even wanting to connect in their pain, of course they're going to want to run away from it. Therefore, even your own family, even your own friends, even, people around you, if they're not okay with their own pain or with discomfort, then they're not going to be able to hold you because they themselves can't even hold themselves, comfort themselves. Yet you're an echo of what they want to run away from. So if right now we are in a year where different opinions are at all high, literally different opinions are at all high. We've never experienced a time where the need to get your opinion validated is being forced on us, by people around us. Literally right now, everything is so sensitive, and it's turned into politics. And we're disconnecting from ourselves just to force another to see our pain. So the paradox here that I'm noticing and that I'm witnessing is because we're starving for someone to be in our pain, and because we're starving for someone to be in our perception or to be in our world, better said, because we're starving for people to see us and to feel us in our world of reality. Because we're starving and we're suffering a deficiency, we're now wanting to force people into our reality. We're now wanting to force people to believe like us so we can feel validated and understood. That could only get way more dysfunctional, guys. That only births disconnection. What we need to start understanding is that everyone is going through their own personalized reality. And because everyone is experiencing their own personalized reality, the same way we want to be understood and heard, that person wants to be heard and understood and comforted. And for that person who is suffering pain, for that person who has lost people in COVID, for that person who has lost their house in a fire, for that person who has, who was protesting and was shot or was beat or was hurt through the process of protesting, and that person that was protesting because their reality has been painful, I want you to understand that that you're not alone. First and foremost, you're not alone. I see you, I hear you, and I respect your reality. I'm going to repeat that. I see you and I feel you and I respect your reality. That is why I'm not going to force onto you my reality. But I will share my wisdom as far as how we could understand ourselves. And it always begins with understanding ourselves. Always. It is ourself. It is us going into ourselves that is going to open the door for us to truly, genuinely connect with another. Not until you choose and get courageous to connect with yourself will you hold the ability to connect with another. Genuinely. I invite you, for that person in pain that is noticing that their pain is not being validated, that is being minimized for that matter, through opposing perspectives. I invite you to start asking yourself, when did I feel like I was never heard? When did I have to mute myself to get acceptance? When did I have to mute or agree with another person, even though if that wasn't my belief? When did I have to sacrifice my true belief, what I really feel, to feel and accommodate another so I can be accepted? Like, when I invite you to start asking yourself these questions. When did I have to mute myself? When did I have to not speak my opinion or express my beliefs so I can keep the peace? I invite you to ask yourself those questions. Because the moment you start asking yourself those questions and start correlating it, and the way that I advise people is take it to a memory, the second to the last memory that you've had. Of course, right now, if you're experiencing that pain and you're observing different parallel realities, different perceptual realities happening before you, feeding the fact that you're alone in this place, you're alone in this pain, which is essentially echoing the isolation that you experienced when you were little. You're really fueling that belief system. We're never ever going to be understood because we were never reflected being understood. What I invite you to do is tell yourself, when was the second to the last time I felt like I was invalidated, I wasn't heard? When was the third to the last? When was the fourth to the last? And so on, until you get to your childhood, until you get to your earliest memory. And the way that you're going to achieve that, again, is going to be by tuning into your emotional body. You're going to tune into your emotional body, and you close your eyes, you breathe in and out, and you ask. You simply ask. And what you're doing there is you're giving permission to your emotional body to remember, to pull up memories. So as you are asking, when was the second to the last time I felt that I had to compromise my opinion for another person to feel comfortable? Or that I had to sacrifice what I believe for another person to feel comfortable? Ask yourself those questions. When did I feel like my reality, my experience wasn't validated? Take it back. Follow the emotion. Follow the emotion. The emotion will tell you. And when you arrive to that child within that had to sever, you had to put her, in this case, me, in a box, because I was never ever going to be understood, because it was never reflected back to me, understanding my emotions, that is. She's still there. Literally. So to now jump into, and I know this is going to get a long video, but it's important because now I'm going to dive into the aspect of when I felt that I wasn't being understood. When I realized after my father passing that there was an unmet need and there was still an existing wound. That existing wound was when in deep emotional distress, no one could ever potentially or possibly understand me. I repeat, when I lost my dad recently from COVID, I literally realized I still had a wound. I still had an unmet need. And that was, no one could ever possibly understand me in this pain. Even though I had a good support system, even though my significant other, I had a significant other to actually help me, to give me a crying shoulder this time around. This time that my father unfortunately passed, I still yet felt like that he could not understand me. That none of my friends could really understand me for that matter. But what was really happening there, it was an echo. that experience, that emotion, that sensation, that pain of not ever being understood was only really an echo of what I've been telling myself. And how I've been keeping little Josie, an aspect of little Josie, in a box, in a dark room, not fueling her, feeding her, because we're isolated. No one could ever understand us. So as I was saying that, I'm actually fueling that belief. I'm actually fueling the belief that I am never or will never be understood. So the power here, as I was saying and feeling I'm not understood, although my significant other has only been so supportive, literally one of the most supportive human beings that I know. The moment I started telling myself that story, even with him, I said, there's a problem. But what's fascinating is I had to have someone like him to be present in my reality or in this experience, so I can start understanding that there's something wrong. I'm fueling a belief here that it's not true. I'm fueling a belief that is not true. That's what's happening. So I had to understand, I'm not feeling understood. I'm not even feeling understood by the person that has only been understanding me, giving me anyway that support. So I then realized, and I know I discussed this in my previous recording live, I realized that, okay, there's an aspect of you, Josie. You, Josie, don't understand yourself. You, Josie, are not giving yourself support. You, Josie, are not comforting that aspect of you. You still have an aspect of yourself that believes it will never be understood living inside of you. So I was still carrying around that belief that was limiting me to feel more supported, to feel more love. And the only way that I was really able to identify that was when my father passed. So when my father passed, that unmet need, that fear, that wound, that pain surfaced. So I was able to identify, I'm not understanding an aspect. My significant other that's not his fault. Nor is my friend's fault. It is me who I am not understanding or believe that I am supported, that I could be understood, that I can be fully understood and fully heard. And the moment that I came to the realization, guys, the moment that I said, wait, I got my back. I am the only person essentially that I need, me and God. If that's the case and that's to be true, because it's only been proven to me through past experiences, then that means I'm not giving myself something. That means I am, in fact, blocking myself from experiencing fulfillment / support when in deep, 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 deep pain. And the moment I realized that, I stopped crying because I was literally bawling. And I literally vocalized, I verbalized, I got your back, Josie. And I envisioned little Josie, literally she came in my mind, like in a fetal position, just in a dark place, malnourished. Literally that image came into my mind. And I held her. And I said, you don't have to be alone anymore. Literally, you don't have to be in isolation anymore. That is not our truth anymore. I have you. I got you. And I swear to you, like clockwork, it's like literally, it was like this. The moment that I was, declaring that statement, those words, that truth, it was like I stopped crying. It was like something came over me, as if literally, if I can describe it, paint the picture, is as if I merged that little isolated Josie inside of me. Like if no more is Josie in a box, isolated. Now I was able to merge that aspect of me who believed genuinely no one could ever understand me when I'm in deep, deep, deep pain, when I'm suffering a loss. So that was powerful. It was so powerful to conceptualize, guys. It was so powerful to merge. So I'm sharing this story because I want to show you the power of what you can do for you. If you are that person in pain who is focusing on all the parallel perceptual realities happening outside of you, okay? If you're that person witnessing people living about their lives like if nothing's happening in the world, and you feel pain about it because essentially is echoing back to you, or it's reflecting back to you, my God, no one understands me, or no one is in my same situation, no one feels what I feel. Yes, acknowledge that discomfort and that voice, but know you hold the power to give it a new definition, to give it a new reality. And that reality and those steps will take for you to go back into yourself, to realize the pattern that you've been fueling. One of, no one understands me when I'm in this situation, or no one understands me when I'm in that situation. In my case, again, I can give you an example, is no one could understand me when I go through deep loss or in deep, deep pain, emotional pain. And of course, because I declared it, and because I felt it, and because I was fueling it, and because I was still claiming that to be, of course there's going to be a part of me that's going to A, still feel like that, and B, view life through that lens. So of course I was able to see, after my father passed and 2 other people in my family, I was able to see the disconnect, I guess. Other people live in different realities than me. How, oh my God, it's like nothing's happening in the world, but it is, because it happened in my world, and not just in my personal world. We're talking about my whole family. So you're going to see that. You're going to see, it's like your mind is going to want to see what you're lacking in, what you need, or what you don't have. There you go, what you don't have. Your mind is going to want to tell you, when you're still suffering a wound, what you don't have. So as going back, as I integrated that belief, that deep, deep belief that I'm never going to be understood, it's like it helped me see everything different. It helped me see things differently. It helped me be at peace to witness other people tell others that, the COVID-19 is not as serious. I was able to really understand that, you know what? It's because they haven't had a family member been taken away. They haven't personally suffered the symptoms severely where they felt like their life was going to be taken away. That wasn't their reality. Or when you have protesters and you have people saying they're looting, they're just crazy, they're out of control. I actually have compassion for both. For the person that's actually literally protesting because their reality has never been validated. Because their reality that they lived was never validated. They feel so compelled, or they have friends and family members, or they have cousins and so forth, extended family, who they seen that their reality was never validated. So because they sympathize with their reality, right? They're able to connect, and they're sympathizing, they're able to share that connection, then they're going to go and protest. And I get it. That protester just wants their reality to be validated and heard and seen and respected, if you will. And then you have the polar opposite party, who is literally saying how they're so destructive. That's not how you create change. And because they've never experienced this other side's reality and pain and struggles personally, and I want to emphasize on that, when you personally have not lived something, it's different. It's different, guys. It's different. So my people out there who are condemning, those protesters, I invite you to revisit that and say, I get it. Some of them are destructive. I understand that. But I invite you to revisit that you haven't lived literally firsthand their life, their journey. And it's different. And I can tell you from my personal experience, just simply in comparison to COVID, literally people are still believing, there's still people out there that don't believe it's real. While you have other families that have lost multiple people in a matter of 2 weeks. It's crazy. It's real. It's deep. And you still have people wandering around with no masks, congregating, because they don't believe, the severity. And there's people that have lost the whole families. So why is it that you have people that really strongly believe masks are not necessary and they're trying to convince everyone not to wear a mask? If they're in that state of really, really aggressively trying to have their opinion to be heard and seen, is because they haven't lived the opposite. So just simply with that comparison, guys, just simply with that comparison of how if you have not lived it, and COVID is the perfect example, if COVID hasn't hit your house directly, you're going to think it's not real. So if we're already seeing a literal big example before us, then please apply that to everything else. Apply that. When you're going to make an opinion or a judgment, apply it to everything else you want to opinionate on. And say, if I haven't lived that side of the coin, I don't know. No, you don't. You don't. And the goal here for us to collectively heal is to communicate. And the way we communicate is to get vulnerable, is to share how we got pained through that particular experience. And when we get vulnerable, you give another person an opportunity to love you, to understand you. The first is to understand you and to love you in your reality. You give the other the opportunity to love you in your reality when you get vulnerable. That's why vulnerability is literally the number one important thing that you should start practicing in your life. But Josie, it's dangerous. It's liable. There's a liability to do that. I can be affected. I can be rejected. And it doesn't feel good. So I'd rather not open up. I'd rather not expose myself. Then you're always going to feel empty. Then you're always going to feel like no one's going to understand you. Then you're actually fueling that very belief that no one could ever understand you and that you will be rejected. Ask and you shall receive. So if you genuinely want to start changing or creating awareness in your life, it literally starts with you being vulnerable in whatever situation you're in. But yes, I don't want to be veering topics because I can go on forever, but I'm going to conclude, this subject for those that barely came in. It's about learn why you feel alone facing your challenges in 2020 or today. Why you feel alone. And how it is fueling that isolation, that loneliness is being fueled through the process of you witnessing other people's perceptual realities. Because if you're seeing other people not validating what you're going through in your pain, it fuels that isolation, that loneliness. Therefore, you feel you're not understood and you're alone. And that's dangerous, guys. That's dangerous. That births depression, that births mental illness, that births isolation. And that's an epidemic in and of itself. So I love you guys, and if you didn't get a chance to see this whole video, I invite you to replay it. And hopefully, if you are in that position where you're struggling, a painful reality, and you're noticing that you're not being understood because you're witnessing other people's reality and they're not really validating, if you will, or comforting or understanding yours, reach out to me. Reach out to me. Send me a message. I am offering a 30-minute free session. My 30 minutes don't just last 30, so they go longer. But rest assured that the 30 minutes that we're on the phone, I will give you some insight that you're going to feel hopeful, or you're just going to even feel comforted. With love and full acceptance, Josie.